Hello students, so this is Mohini Miss from St. Teresa School. So today I'll be doing the fourth chapter. I'll be discussing the fourth chapter, and the name of the chapter is Reactions to Imperialistic Hegemony. So what does reaction mean? Reaction means response, how you act, and hegemony means control. And here imperialistic is the policy that was followed by the British. It is a policy of imperialism followed by the British, and here the British tried to dominate India. They tried to exploit the resources, the economy of India for their own selfish interest, and they slowly and gradually they brought the whole of India under their control. So today I'll be dealing with a very interesting topic, and that is reactions to the imperialistic hegemony. So now before I start the topic, I will discuss about the middle class. And the question also says, who were the middle class? Write about the background of the rise of the middle class and what were the features. So, who were the middle class? In 1900, there were thousands of English educated people. Teachers, lawyers, doctors, journalists, government officials, and these educated and relatively well-off people of India were known as the middle class. And they lived outside they lived in the towns and cities, not outside, but they lived in towns and cities. And in Bengal, they were known as the Bhadralok, and they were also known as the Bengali Babus. And these middle class people, they played a very important role in modernizing India. They were the ones who felt that they should take the Indians should take the benefits of the British rule. And later on, when they saw that there was a lot of exploitation in India, then they also took measures to protest against the British. As a result, many national movements took place under the role of the middle class. So the middle class played a very important role. So these were the middle class. Now the second part of the question is background of the rise of the middle class. So the rise of the middle class actually was a result of the British administration, and the English people felt that there should be a group of Indians who would be like English in their opinion as well as in their ideas. And these Indians helped the British in the administration, in running the administration of India. And there are various categories of these middle class. The clerks were the middle class. So when the British started to rule in India after the Battle of Plassey, then all the high post was taken by the British, and they gave the low post to the Indians. So those people who held the low post in administration, they were known as the clerks. They were included as middle class. Then the British introduced the judicial system similar to that of England, and there were a set of people who did legal practices. So those people who did legal practices were the lawyers, and they were also included in the middle class. Then the British gave a lot of importance to economy, and in the economy what they did, they appointed educated Indians, and the educated Indians controlled the collection of raw materials, and also they took charge of the distribution of the finished products. And so these people also were known as these were Indians, but they were known as the middle class. They were the merchants, traders, and also in the army, the lowest post was given to the Indians. So those people in the army also, they were known as the middle class. Then British established many schools in India, and who worked there as teachers also were middle class. Then they established factories, and in the factories whoever worked there as managers, managerial post, they also were included as middle class. Then even the landlords who collected tax, they got Western education, and also the middleman related with the land also came to be known as the middle class. So as a result of this, so what happened is that all these people, the clerks, the lawyers, the merchants, the teachers, the managers, the landlords, everyone were known as the middle class. As a result, this gave rise to the middle class. So this is the answer for the second part. Now the next part is what were the features. So there are many features about the rise of the middle class. So features means important point. So at that time, especially the high class Hindus, they were the ones who were the also known as the middle class. And according to the estimate, or according to the academic session of 1883-84, it is said that 84.7% of the people belonged to the upper caste Hindus. They were the Brahmins, they were the Vaidyas, the doctors, then they were the people who made the scribes who used to write documents on land. So all these people actually they belong to the upper class Hindus, and they were the ones who got the government jobs, and they became the government officials. So that is one important feature. Another feature is that all the middle class people were not wealthy. They were not wealthy, they were not rich, but they had the modern system of education. They had the modern system of education, like they knew about liberalism, they knew about the progressive ideas, and they knew that the British rule, at the beginning they knew that the British rule is very beneficial for them. They felt the British rule was very beneficial for them, and they wanted to take advantage of the British rule. And it is said that there was one Duraisian. Duraisian is a follower of Durazio. His name was Ram Gopal Ghosh, and so Ram Gopal Ghosh was the person who, he did not take government job, but he wanted the continuance of the British rule, because he knew that the British rule would benefit India. That is why he wanted the continuance of the British rule. Then that is one feature. Another feature is that there were middle class people who got the best education. They were very highly educated, but they were poor. So those poor educated people, middle class, were known as the lower middle class people. And at that time, the middle class people were not much. Like if you compare with today's population of Delhi, educated population of Delhi, those were equal to that of the middle class during those days. So the population of middle class also were not very much. And they were, this middle class, another feature is that this middle class were very conscious. And they were divided into groups according to their caste. And if they want to choose their leaders, they chose the most powerful and influential person as leaders from their group. And at that time, there were also a lot of unemployment. Though a lot of middle class were educated, but they did not get jobs. It is said that at that time, according to the estimate of Amelesh Tripathi, a historian, he says that in 1867, there were a lot of posts. There were 13,431 government posts. 13,431 government posts. And there, the people used to get salary of about rupees 70 every month. So rupees 70 during those days was a very high amount. It was very high amount, and that much was given during the that much of amount was given every month to those who held the government post. But these posts were never given to the Indians. It was given to only to the British or to the Anglo-Indians. As a result, the Indians were deprived of all these government jobs. Then many towns were established at that time. So in these towns now Western education started. In these new towns that was established, Western education started. And here whoever took Western education, they all were now included in the middle class. So all these are the features about the middle class, features of the middle class. And the conclusion is that Dr. Desai, he says that the middle class were the ones, or they were the creators of modern India. So modern India was actually created by the middle class. He says that, and he says that because the middle class were very familiar with liberalism, they were familiar with democracy, and it was these middle class who realized the exploitation of the British rule, and as a result they started lot of national movements. Lot of national movements were started in India for many years by these middle class. And even during those days when British had just come to India, at that time also it was these middle class only who revolted against the British, because the British, they tried to lower the age of the civil service examination. They wanted to lower the age from 23, they wanted to make it to 19, so that the Indians will not be able to qualify for the examination. But the Indians wanted the age to be increased to 23, so that more and more Indians can qualify, they can sit for the examination. So they protested against the lowering of age by the British government. So this is about the role, very important role that was played by the middle class. And it was these middle class only who gave lot of importance to Western education. So the next question, important question that I am going to deal is about the spread of Western education in India. So it was again here the middle class who played a very important role in the spread of Western education. So the first question, I hope I am clear. Now the second question I will discuss, and that is about the spread of Western education. So I will start. So when the British first came to India, at that time there were a network of elementary schools. Elementary means education, schools that gives primary education. There were network of elementary schools like pathshalas, muktabs were there, and they used to give traditional type of education. And there were also higher centers of learning, and those higher centers were tolls, madrasas. They used to give higher education. And at that time mostly the Brahmins and the high class Muslims used to avail, they used to take the benefit of the higher education. But the education in India was very backward at that time. It was very backward because they did not know about the science, about the progress of science, progress that science had made in Europe. So it was very important to introduce Western education. So at that time, in the year 1813, the British government passed one act, the Charter Act of 1813. And according to this Charter Act of 1813, 1 lakh rupees was given for education. But the British government did not specify which type of education. They did not say Western education, nor did they say Indian education. But at that time, there were many people who wanted to spread Indian education, like for instance, Warren Hastings was one who established the Calcutta Madrasa in 1781. Then William Jones established the Asiatic Society in 1784. Then the Sanskrit College was established by Jonathan Duncan in 1791, and the Fort William College was established by Warren Hastings in 1800. So all these gave importance to Indian education. And at that time, you know, there were some evangelists. There were evangelists, means people who gave importance to education. And so Charles Grant was the chief person in this group known as the evangelist. And at that time, you know, there were two groups of people now. One group of people were in favor of Western education, they were known as the Anglicists, and another group of people were in favor of Indian education or the vernacular education, so they were known as the Orientalists. And the Anglicists were headed by Saunders and Colvin, whereas the Orientalists were headed by people like Prinsep and also Sutherland. And at that time there was a confusion which type of education were to be introduced in India, Western education or the Indian education. So there was a controversy, and this controversy, this misunderstanding, this confusion came to be known as the Anglicist Orientalist controversy. Then at that time, one middle class person, he was Rajaram Mohan Roy. So Rajaram Mohan Roy now wanted Western education. So it was him who established the Anglo-Hindu school in 1822, and then he also wrote a letter to the Church of Scotland Assembly to send eminent teachers to teach Western education. And as a result, Alexander Duff came, and so he was the one who pressurized, the British government to introduce Western education. And at that time, Lord Amherst was the Governor General, and Lord Amherst also passed a proposal in favor of establishing a Sanskrit college. But Rajaram Mohan Roy objected to the proposal. He didn't want Sanskrit college to be established at that time. And now, in 1828, now the next Governor General came, and he was a reformer, Lord William Bentinck. And Lord William Bentinck was in favor of introducing Western education. And so he appointed Macaulay, Thomas Babington Macaulay, as the lawyer. And Thomas Babington Macaulay also became the president of the Committee of Public Instruction, which was set up in 1823. And this Babington Macaulay and William Bentinck, both of them now were in favor of Western education. And Macaulay, he prepared the minute on education known as the Macaulay's Minute. And in this minute he said that the traditional education did not have science, so it was important to start Western education. And he also said that this Western education would produce a generation of Indians who would be Indians in blood and color of the skin, but their opinion, intellect, their beliefs would be like Englishmen. So that is why he favored Western education. And also Macaulay said that this Western education would be given to the middle class, and the middle class would pass on the education to the common people. They would percolate, they would filter the education down to the common people. And so this theory that Macaulay started was known as the downward filtration theory. And so this way, in 1835, the Calcutta Medical College was established, and they started to give education in science. And also in 1844, Lord Hardinge made an announcement that those who get English education, they will get government jobs. So naturally people preferred and they went for Western education. And in 1854, now there was one person, Charles Wood. He passed one commission. It was known as the Wood's Dispatch. It was a directive on education, and it is also known as the Magna Carta. Magna Carta, why? Because it gave political and legal rights to the Indians. Rights were given to the Indians. And so today, the modern system of education that we have in India, was introduced on the basis of this document. And so there are many suggestions made by Wood's dispatch. The first suggestion is that he wanted construction of 3 universities in the metropolitan cities of Calcutta, Bombay and Madras. Next is that he wanted primary schools, secondary schools and higher education to be given. Then he wanted granting aid to be given to the private institutions. Then he wanted Department of Education to be established in the 3 metropolitan cities. Then he wanted teacher training courses to be given for training the teachers, and beside that he also gave importance to inspection of schools. Inspections of schools were given importance. He gave importance to female education, and also he said that the medium of instruction for the common people should be in mother tongue. So these all are the very important recommendations made by the Wood's dispatch. And so, according to the Wood's dispatch, recommendation of the Wood's dispatch, in 1857, 3 universities were established in Calcutta, Bombay and Madras. And the first chancellor of this Calcutta University was James William Colville was the first chancellor of this Calcutta University, and Calcutta University was known as the 5-star university. It was a very famous university, and it is said that in 1858 2 male became graduate, or they 2 male graduated. The first 2 male who graduated from this Calcutta University were Jadunath Sarkar and Bankim Chandra Chatterjee, the writer of the famous book Anandamath. And in 1882, the two female graduates were Kumudini Ganguly and Chandramukhi Bose. So this way, Calcutta University made a lot of progress, and by the year 1857, there were about 27 universities in the whole of India, and by 1910 there were about 145 universities, and in the year 1882 there were about 3,916 secondary schools, and about 1,25,000 students got Western education. So this is how the people got Western education, and they helped in the modernization of India. So this is about the spread of Western education. So this first question also comes for 8 marks, this also comes for 8 marks, both are very important. Then the next important question is about the Muslim reform movement, which was started by Sir Syed Ahmed Khan, and he was known as Sir because this was a title given to him by the British, and the Aligarh movement. So now I will discuss about the Aligarh movement. So now at the beginning of the British rule, the Hindus took up the benefit of Western education. So since they took up the benefit of Western education, so as a result of that, they became very qualified, they got government jobs, they enjoyed all the economic and social rights, whereas the Muslims, they did not take up Western education. The reason why they did not take up Western education is because they were angry with the British, because they felt that British had snatched away the power from the Muslims and they had become powerful in India. So that is why, the Muslims did not take the benefit, but they became very backward. And at that time, the Wahhabi movement and also the revolt of 1857 created a lot of distrust between the Muslims and the British. And the British held the Muslims responsible for the revolt of 1857. So at that time, there was this person, Sir Syed Ahmed Khan. He was born in Delhi and he became a government official. And so at that time, he took lessons from the attitude of the British, and he wanted to remove the misunderstanding that was there between the British and the Muslims. So now he started good relations with the British. He started, harmonious relations with the British, and he tried to convince them about the necessity of establishing good relations with the Muslims, and he tried to erase from the minds of the British that the Muslims were responsible for the revolt of 1857. So his effort did not go in vain. That means his effort did not become useless, because we see that slowly the British became very mellowed. They became, slowly they turned in favor of the Muslims. They were against the Muslims at the beginning, but now they turned in favor of the Muslims. And this we come to know from a book written by William Hunter. William Hunter wrote a book, Our Indian Mussalmans, in the year 1781. And in this Our Indian Mussalmans, he said that the British should give benefit to the Muslims. They should fulfill their demands. The British should regard the Muslims as their patron and royal supporters. And so this is how, they had a very good relation, and slowly the British, tried to win the favor of the Muslims by giving them privileges, rights. As a result, what happened? The Muslims alienated, or you can say there was a very uncordial relation between the Muslims and the Hindus. And so, because all the rights British gave to the Muslims only, Hindus did not get right. So naturally, the British became in favor of the Muslims became in favor of the British, whereas the Hindus were not in favor. So this led to the divide and rule policy in India. So it became easy for the British to rule in India by following this policy of divide and rule. Then, now after establishing good relations with the British, now Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, he wanted to introduce liberal and social reforms in the Muslim society. So he tried to remove the medieval customs. He wanted the Muslims to have rationalist outlook, that means to reason, and also he wanted a spread of women education. He wanted to remove parda, polygamy, where one man marries many wives. He wanted to do away with that. He wanted to do away with the easy divorce that was there in the Muslim society. And this way he wanted to, bring about a total change, a revolution among the Muslim society. And this he knew could be done only through Western education. So he himself established many schools, and not only he established many schools, but also he got many of the books, translated, books on science translated into Urdu, so that the Muslims could take opportunity and they could avail of make use of the books that was translated into Urdu. And the political vision of Sir Syed Ahmad, there were two aspects of the political vision. The two aspects were, one was that at the beginning he was very liberal. Liberal means he wanted to establish good relation with the Hindus. And in 1882, he even said, Hindus and Muslims are the two eyes of Mother India. And when he wanted to materialize and fulfill his aim of establishing the Aligarh College, he told all the communities, people belonging to all the communities, Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, and different communities to contribute to raise the fund for the construction of the Aligarh College. So as a result, many people did contribute to raise the fund for the establishing of the Aligarh Aligarh College. And but later on, he became totally a changed man. And he gave up his broad-mindedness, and in 1888 it became clear when he said that Hindus and Muslims are the two different rivals. They are the two rivals in India. So this way, he tried to, he became communal slowly. At the beginning, he was very liberal in favor of the Hindus, unity of the Hindus and the Muslims, but later on, he regarded Hindus and Muslims as rival communities. And he was the person who started this Aligarh movement, and there was one principal, Theodore Beck, and Theodore Beck is also largely responsible for spreading communalism in the Aligarh College. And through this Aligarh movement, what he did is that he tried to remove the distrust that was there between the Muslims and the British. And another thing he tried to, number two, is that he tried to spread Western education among the Muslim society. Third, the Aligarh College, prepared the Muslims. As a result, they could compete with the Hindus. And the last thing about this, last important point about the Aligarh movement is that he tried to create, the college tried to create a type of education which was suitable for the Muslims. So these are the objectives, 4 objectives of the Aligarh College. So in conclusion, we can say that this Aligarh, this Sir Syed Ahmad, he was criticized by many as a person who gave importance to two-nation theory, who tried to weaken the national movement, who tried to spread communalism, and also who gave importance to demand for separate state, Pakistan. But in spite of that, he was a person who modernized the backward Muslim society. And R.C. Majumdar says that what Raja Ram Mohan Roy did for the Hindus, Sir Syed Ahmad did for the Muslims. And he even goes further and he says that the Aligarh movement was for the Muslims what the national movement and the Renaissance was for the Hindus. So this is about about Sir Syed Ahmad and the Aligarh movement. Now the another important question which also contains 8 marks, and that is about the proliferation. What do you know about the proliferation of the rural elite? So now what does proliferation mean? Proliferation means rapid increase of a certain group of people. So here there was a rapid increase of the rural elite. And who were the rural elite? Rural means people living in the village, and elite means very wealthy, very rich, as well as very powerful people in the village. So now there was rapid rise of this rural elite, and so we are going to deal about the rural elite. So now in the 19th century, as the British, they extended their territories, they strengthened their territories in India, more and more peasants came under the control of the British. And the revenue on the peasants were constantly increased. And also there was the condition of these peasants also became impoverished. They were reduced to poverty, they became very poor, their condition became very miserable. So at that time, when the people peasants did not have any money to pay the tax, they went to the money lenders, and the money lenders now gave them the loan, but at a very high rate of interest. And so this way the money lenders, the tax collectors, the middlemen became very, very powerful. And these people, they were also known as patidars, the sahukars, money lenders, the middleman who used to help in the sale of goods. These people became very powerful in the village, and they were known as the rural elite. Now the last bit is about these people. So now with the decline of the Mughal administration and the collection of revenue, now there was confusion. There was confusion in the administration as well as in the collection of revenue after the decline of the Mughal government or Mughal administration. Then at that time, since there was confusion, now British came in charge of revenue collection. So the British, what they did is that these British they gave the charge of collection of revenue to the head of the village, or to the very very dominant person in the society. And so the dominant person, this headman, they collected the tax, these dominant people, they collected the tax, and in Gujarat, they were these dominant people. They were the rural elite, and they were known as the patidars, and they held land. They held land in common. They held, ownership over a common land of the village, and the land was known as pati. And they used to collect tax related to the land. So they were known as patidars. Pati means land. And so since they collected the land tax, they were known as the patidars. And these patidars were the tax collectors, and they were the ones who became very powerful in Gujarat. And these people were also known as patels, village headman. They also took the title of village headman. So this is about the patidars, or the tax collectors of Gujarat. Then the sahukars, who are they? They are the money lenders, and these sahukars, actually it is an Indian, it is used in Indian language, and in vernacular language sahukars are also known as mahajan. In a vernacular language we say mahajan. If we say mahajan, then we understand that they are the money lenders. So, and in South India, these people are known as sahukars. These money lenders are known as sahukars, and these people also were the result of the new administrative, system of revenue collection, which was introduced by the British. And these sahukars, they were the ones who did agriculture, but at the same time they had a lot of money, so they used to give money on loan at a very high rate of interest. And so these people who gave loan on very high rate of interest, these money lenders, were known as the sahukars. And at that time, during the time of the British, the peasants had to pay the tax in cash. So sometimes these sahukars made the peasants sell the goods at a very low price. And sometimes most of the time the loans are very high, and sometimes the peasants got into debt, and once he got into debt, he could never come out from debt, and at last he had to part with his land. He had to part with his land means that his land was confiscated and taken away by these money lenders. So this way the peasants' condition became very miserable. So it is because of this that in Maharashtra and in Pune, the Deccan revolt took place, against the sahukars, by the people of Maharashtra and Pune in 1875. Then the money lenders, the middleman. So now these middlemen also, they were the rural elite, and before the British introduced the modern system of economy, at that time, in the rural areas, there were agriculture and handicrafts industry went side by side. That means the handicraftsman or the artisan was also a cultivator. But with the introduction of this new settlement by the revenue settlement by the British government, what happened is that the unity between the industry and agriculture was disrupted. It was destroyed. And now there was commercialization of crop. So what does commercialization of crop mean? Commercialization of crop means now people had to grow huge amount for market. Not for consumption, not for their own use, but for the market. So now they had to produce, peasants had to pay for the market, they had to grow crops for the market. So at that time, they had to compete with the world market. As a result, they had to face unequal competition. So these peasants now had to depend on some agents for the sale of their goods. These peasants now, they could not sale of their goods because they had to face the competition. So who helped them to sell the goods? It was the middleman who helped them to sell the goods. So this way that there was rise of this middleman, and these middlemen were very powerful. So naturally they always took advantage of the poverty of of the peasants, and at that time the peasants sometimes, you know, in order to pay the tax to the British government and also to pay the dues to the money lenders, they had to make a distress sale of their goods. Distress sale of their goods means they had to sell the goods at a very low price, so they were at a loss. So all these are about the rural elite. So this is how slowly there was the growth of rural elite. So I have discussed here in this class 4 important questions. This actually is a very long topic, but it is very interesting. So these are the 4 important questions, and all the 4 important questions are very, very important for the exams, and all the 4 questions contain 8 marks. So with this I will end my class for now, and I will continue with the remaining questions in the next class. So good luck, children. Thank you so much.